Human beings are religious by nature, and admittedly, some elements of traditional religion do fall outside the ground of pure reason alone. Elements of the heart and the soul often trump the head in the form of faith, hope, and trust. Religion means, at times, setting one's mind outside the mere material limitations of this life. However, traditional religion is a healthy place for such action. The elements of religion that turn one's mind eye away from the mere material and to the spiritual often manifest themselves in things like altruism, charity, love for mankind. These are the fruits of properly practiced religion. That being said, whether one's religious in its proper and healthy sense or not, I say it again, all men are religious. That religious instinct is in all of us. God made man to want to worship him, and that longing, that instinct in all of us will find itself a home somewhere. That religious seed, it will find soil. It's simply a matter of whether it's dark, rich, proper soil or whether it's the scorched earth of secularism. Either way, it's taking root. Now granted, these are generalizations, and I'm sure one can find exceptions, but by and large, you search this out and it will prove true. I've always found it surprising that so many secularists, skeptics, and atheists, who constantly hail the merits of reason uber alles, by way of worldview, align with the political left. After all, the left is an ideology that's virtually void of reason. It peddles in emotion and utopianism, not reason. One can search in vain to find a single leftist issue that can be supported by way of argument. The left is all emotive, it's all feeling, one might say dogmatic, in its mindless dedication to the irrational. For the secular extremists, these radical social issues, for them, serve as a religion. Well, how many times have we witnessed the secularists, the secular extremists, hitch their wagon to environmental extremism of any kind? A strange green gone wild trance seems to engulf them. Their desire to worship the created rather than the creator becomes almost an impenetrable armor that reason is powerless against. Green is for them their religion. Now one might be tempted to shrug it off as harmless. After all, who really cares? And after all, conservation is a good thing, right? But unlike traditional religion, which is balanced, healthy, and worthy of such passion and attention, this offshoot of pantheism with its noble righteousness often mutates into utopianism, which history shows us mutates again into totalitarianism. Such a mind will begin to radicalize until they impose their earth worship on you. By force. They are zealots whose tools become coercion and tyranny. Such a mind will begin to commit terror and then justify that terror. Such a mind will continuously hinder the progress of man. Now, it would be very intellectually dishonest if I did not disclose that this radicalization, it does happen at times within the confines of traditional religion. However, the Western world has enacted laws harnessing this temptation to legislate traditional religion upon others. No such checkpoints exist for stopping secular extremism. Strangely enough, as the all-seeing gardener tends to the rich soil of traditional classic religion, the weeds of secular extremism grow unchecked and threaten to strangle the health of a free people and their pursuit of prosperity in all its forms. I've used in this case the example of environmental extremism, but one can replace it with endless examples of mindless secular religion. Socialism, communism, statism, scientism as the answer to everything are all examples. These are all things that the secular extremists worship with a heart over head irrational religious fervor. Statism in all its form crumbles around Europe even as I talk to you, and yet they steady on because of their emotional or rational belief is literally impenetrable to fiscal facts that, as I speak to you right now as you're watching this video, threaten European security and prosperity. How else can one explain such secular suicide? We hear the secularists constantly crying wolf about the threat of traditional and classic religion creeping into your courts, creeping into your schools, creeping into our governance. All the while they fill our court dockets with mindless and irrational fears, from man-made temperature scares to cap and trade laws to utopian economics that are proven to fail. They fill our schools with the backwash of socialism when time, history, and reason have proven that these ideas will fail and fail bloody. How else can one explain such secular headless horsemen running rampant? The answer is simple. So many of today's secular extremists, they see themselves as impartial. They feel as though because they don't fly the flag of traditional religion, that they're somehow the gatekeepers, the key holders to all things progressive, all things good, all things untainted. This is simply not the case. Their worldview, just like anyone else's worldview, shapes their emotions, their irrationalities, their likes, their dislikes, the way they raise their children, the way they teach a class, the way they write a history book, and yes, the way they vote and implement power. They latch on to radical fringe issues and ideas with a religious zeal meant only for God. This makes them unchecked extremists who have nothing stopping them from legislating their madness on all of us. So basically it comes down to this. We all have our religions. Some of us just have our cards on the table. Moreover, the Judeo-Christian framework for guiding a people, a culture, and a nation has a far better track record than does secular extremism. Stalin's Soviet Russia slow danced with secular extremism right into the arms of bloody communism. America chose for about 200 years to set her eyes on the truth of God's Word for the foundation of our laws and for the hope of our future. Only recently, when secular extremism seems to be at the helm, do we see a kingdom crumbling under the weight of its irrational baggage. I say it again, all men are religious. Some worship their God within the walls of a church. Others worship their radical causes and their nightmarish utopianism in the halls of Congress. I suggest you pay more attention to the latter. Take it to the bank.